Captain Tejo stared out the window of his small Earthship as it moved closer to the crystal planet Velthera. The planet looked like a giant diamond floating in space, with white and blue lights dancing across its surface. He had never seen anything so beautiful. Bora, remind me why we're here again, Tejo asked his AI companion. Her voice came from the speakers around the ship's control room. Simple diplomatic meeting, Captain. The Veltherans want to talk about trade deals with Earth. Nothing complicated, Bora replied in her calm female voice. Tejo rubbed his tired eyes. He had been traveling through space for 3 months, visiting different alien worlds and making friends for Earth. Most aliens thought humans were just simple creatures who had only recently learned to travel between stars. Some were nice about it, others were not. The ship landed on a platform made of what looked like smooth glass. As Tejo stepped outside, he felt the warm air on his skin. The gravity here was lighter than Earth's, making him feel like he could jump higher than usual. Tall, thin beings with silver skin approached his ship. They wore flowing robes that seemed to change color in the light. Their eyes were large and golden, and they moved with grace that made Tejo feel clumsy in comparison. Welcome, human visitor, said the tallest Veltheran. His voice sounded like wind chimes. I am Counselor Veltar. We have been waiting for you. Tejo bowed slightly, the way Biora had taught him. Thank you for having me. I'm Captain Tejo from Earth. As they walked through the Crystal City, Tejo saw crowds of beings gathered in the streets. There were not just Veltherans, but aliens from many different worlds. Some had 4 arms. Others had tentacles instead of legs, and a few looked almost like giant insects. The noise was incredible. What's all the excitement about? Tejo asked. Veltar's golden eyes seemed to sparkle. Today begins the trials of worth. It is our most sacred tradition. Warriors and nobles from across the galaxy come to compete for the greatest honor. What kind of honor? The hand of Princess Nari, daughter of our King Velthar. She is known throughout the galaxy for her beauty and wisdom. Many consider her the most perfect being alive. Tejo felt uncomfortable. The idea of competing for someone like they were a prize seemed wrong to him. On Earth, people chose their own partners. They reached a massive arena made of clear crystal. Inside, Tejo could see hundreds of alien competitors gathered on the arena floor. Some were enormous, with muscles that could crush cars. Others glowed with energy or had weapons attached to their bodies. In a special box high above the arena, Tejo saw her. Princess Nari sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single piece of starlight. Her silver skin seemed to shine brighter than the others, and her golden eyes looked intelligent and sad at the same time. She was beautiful, but she looked like she wished she was anywhere else. The trials will test mind, body, and spirit, Veltar explained. Only the most worthy will win the princess's hand and unite our kingdoms through marriage. Near the arena entrance, Tejo noticed a group of beings in fancy uniforms. They wore symbols he recognized from his diplomatic training. Those are Galactic Council representatives, he told Veltar. Yes, Ambassador Kyungmin of the Zephyrian Empire and Delegate Hyjin of the Nixari Coalition. They have great interest in who wins the trials. As they got closer, Tejo heard the aliens talking in loud voices. Another primitive display, Ambassador Kyungmin was saying. His bird-like features looked annoyed. These local customs hold back galactic progress. Delegate Hyjin, who looked like a blue-skinned human with silver hair, nodded. At least, only proper species are competing. Can you imagine if some lesser race tried to participate? They both laughed in a way that made Tejo's stomach turn. Veltar led Tejo to a registration table where a nervous-looking Veltharan official sat behind a crystal tablet. I need to register our honored guest, Veltar said in the Veltharan language. The official looked confused and started typing rapidly on his tablet. Biora's translation system kicked in, trying to help. Wait, Tejo said, but it was too late. The official smiled widely and handed Tejo a crystal badge. Competitor number 847. Welcome to the trials of worth. There's been a mistake, Tejo said quickly, but the official had already announced to the crowd. We have a late entry. Captain Teho of the human species. The arena fell silent. Then the laughter started. Ambassador Kyungmin's bird-like shriek was the loudest. A human? In the trials of worth? This is ridiculous, Delegate Hyjin shook her head. Humans barely discovered space travel. They have no genetic enhancements, no special abilities. This is insulting to real competitors. Other aliens in the crowd started making jokes. Maybe he can clean the arena after the real competitors finish, shouted a four-armed Krathan warrior named Dongwu. I bet he breaks something just by touching. It, laughed a telepathic Sirani poet called Sundash-ho. Teho felt his face turn red. He wanted to leave, but something stopped him. In the royal box, Princess Nari was looking directly at him. Her golden eyes were not laughing. Instead, she looked. Curious, I can withdraw the entry, Veltar whispered. This was not intended. Teho looked around at all the aliens laughing at him, at the council representatives shaking their heads in disgust at the competitors who thought he was a joke. Then he looked back at Princess Nari. She was still watching him with those intelligent eyes. No, Teho said firmly, I'll compete. The laughter got even louder. Captain, Bora's voice came through his earpiece. This is not advisable. These beings are genetically superior in every measurable way. Maybe, Teho replied quietly, but they don't know how humans think. King Velthar stood up in the royal box. His voice boomed across the arena. The trials of worth are open to all who wish to prove themselves worthy. The human may compete if he chooses. Ambassador Kyungmin flew up to the royal box. Your Majesty. This makes a mockery of the entire proceeding. Humans are not evolved enough for such competition. The trials will determine that. The king replied calmly. As the crowd continued to buzz with amusement and disbelief, Teho found himself looking up at Princess Nari again. This time she did something that surprised him. She smiled just slightly and gave him the smallest nod. It was not a gesture of pity or amusement. It was encouragement. Well, Ba'ora, Teho said under his breath, looks like we're doing this. I have calculated your chances of success, the replied. Don't tell me the numbers, I probably don't want to know. The first trial would begin at dawn. Teho had one night to figure out how a simple human could compete against the strongest, smartest, and most advanced beings in the galaxy. He was starting to think this might be the biggest mistake of his life. But when he looked up at Princess Nari one more time, he decided it might also be the most important thing he had ever done. The crowd was still laughing, but Teho was already planning. The morning sun made the crystal arena shine like fire. Teho stood with the other competitors, feeling very small next to them. The four-armed Krathan warrior Dongwu was twice his height and 4 times his weight. The telepathic Sireni poet. Sunho kept making light patterns dance around his head, showing off his mental powers. First trial begins now, announced the arena master, an ancient Veltharan with scars across his silver skin. The maze of minds will test your intelligence and wisdom. Enter the labyrinth, reach the center, solve the puzzle there. Simple. The maze appeared in the arena floor, rising up from crystal blocks that moved by themselves. The walls were transparent, so everyone could watch the competitors get lost and confused. Ambassador Kyungmin leaned forward in his seat. Finally, we can end this embarrassment quickly. Humans have such small brains. Delegate Hyjin was taking notes on a crystal tablet. This should be educational. We can study how inferior species fail under pressure. The competitors entered the maze from different points. Teho watched the others before moving. Dongwu smashed straight through walls with his massive fists, but the walls just rebuilt themselves. Sunho tried to read the maze's thoughts, but Crystal apparently did not think like living things. Other competitors used different methods. Some flew over the walls, but force fields pushed them back down. Others tried to phase through the crystal, but it blocked all their powers. Teho walked slowly into his section of the maze. He did not try to break anything or use powers he did not have. Instead, he did something humans were very good at. He looked for patterns. The crystal walls had small marks on them. Most competitors ignored these as decorations, but Teho studied them carefully. They reminded him of something he had seen in old books on Earth. He whispered, "Do these marks look familiar to you?" "Running analysis?" Or replied through his earpiece. "Yes, Captain. They match several ancient Earth mathematical sequences. Fibonacci spirals, golden ratios, prime number progressions. So this is not just a maze, it's a math puzzle." While other competitors got more and more frustrated, smashing walls and shouting, Teho traced the patterns with his finger. Each mark pointed to the next in a sequence. Not left or right, but in mathematical order. Instead of trying to find the center by sight, he followed the math. Third turn, fifth passage, 8th corridor, 13th junction. The Fibonacci sequence led him through the maze like a map. The crowd grew quiet as they watched the small human move through the maze with confidence. He was not the strongest or fastest, but he was going in the right direction while everyone else ran in circles. "How is he doing that?" Sunho called out, frustrated. His telepathic powers could not read crystal walls, and he was completely lost. "Impossible," Dongwu growled. Punching another wall that just rebuilt itself. In the royal box, Princess Nari leaned forward with interest. "Father, look at how he moves." "He is not fighting the maze, he is understanding it." King Velthor nodded. "Slowly interesting approach." Ambassador Kyungmin's feathers ruffled with anger. He must be cheating somehow. Humans cannot be this intelligent. Teho reached the center of the maze first. In the middle was a crystal pillar with symbols that moved and changed. Other competitors were still lost in the outer rings of the maze. The symbols looked like a puzzle, but Teho realized it was not about knowing alien languages. It was about recognizing what the symbols represented. Some were numbers, others were chemical elements, and some were musical notes. "It's asking for the pattern that connects everything," Teho said to himself. He thought about what he knew. Numbers led to chemistry, chemistry led to physics, physics led to music through vibration and frequency. Everything in the universe was connected by math and energy. Tahoe arranged the symbols to show the relationship between matter, energy, and frequency. The crystal pillar glowed bright blue and opened a passage to the exit. "Trial complete," the arena master announced. "Captain Teho of Earth finishes first." The arena fell silent again. Then Princess Nari started clapping. Slowly, some of the Velthoran audience joined her. Ambassador Kyungmin stood up angrily. "This is unacceptable. He must have received help from his AI. All competitors may use their natural abilities and tools," King Velthor replied. "The human used his mind and his equipment just as others use their strength or telepathy." Other competitors finally started reaching the center, but they struggled. With the puzzle, Dongwu tried to smash it. Sunho tried to read its thoughts. A few figured it out eventually, but most gave up in frustration. During the break between trials, Teho sat alone, eating simple food from his ship. He felt eyes watching him and looked up to see Princess Nari approaching with just one guard. "That was impressive," she said, sitting across from him. Her voice was musical like all Velthorans, but there was something warmer about it. "Thank you, Your Highness." Teho started to stand, but she waved for him to stay seated. "Please, just call me Nari. I wanted to ask you something. How did you solve the maze so quickly?" Teho thought for a moment. "On Earth we have a saying. When you cannot go through something, go around it. When you cannot go around it, understand it." The maze was not really a test of strength or speed. It was a test of patience and pattern recognition. Nari smiled. "And the crystal puzzle? Everything is connected. Your people understand this better than most. You build with living crystal, work with light and sound as tools." The puzzle was asking if I understood that connection. "You speak as if you have studied our culture. I try to learn about every species I meet. Understanding differences helps us find similarities." Nari looked surprised. "Most visitors see us as very different from their own kind. We are different. But we all came from stars, we all think and feel, we all want to be understood. Those are big similarities." Before Nari could reply, her guard stepped forward. "Princess, you should return to the royal box." As she stood to leave, Nari looked back at Teho. Good luck in the next trial, Captain. After she left, Teho realized other competitors had been watching their conversation. Some looked confused, others angry. The human thinks he can charm the princess with words, Dongwu rumbled to Sunho. Pathetic, Sunho agreed. She was just being polite to a lower species. But Teho had seen something in Nari's golden eyes that was not just politeness. She had looked genuinely interested in what he was saying. Not as an alien curiosity, but as someone worth talking to. The second trial was announced, the test of wisdom. Competitors had to answer questions about philosophy, ethics, and leadership. This seemed impossible for a human to win. The questions were hard. What is the difference between justice and revenge? How do you lead people who are smarter than you? When is it right to break a law? Other competitors gave impressive answers full of big words and complex ideas. Sunho spoke about telepathic ethics. Dongwu discussed warrior honor codes. A snake-like Cytherian talked about the wisdom of patience. When Teho's turn came, he gave simple, honest answers. Justice helps everyone. Revenge only helps the angry person. You lead by listening and by admitting when you are wrong. Laws should be broken when they hurt innocent people. His answers were not fancy, but they were clear and real. Princess. Nari nodded thoughtfully at each one. The judges debated for a long time. Finally, they announced that Teho had placed third in the wisdom trial. Not first, but much better than anyone expected. Ambassador Kyungmin was furious. This is ridiculous. How can a primitive species score so high? Delegate Haijin was writing rapidly on her tablet. I must report this to the council. Something is not right here. But in the royal box, King Velther was having a quiet conversation with his daughter. What do you think of the human, Nari? He is different from the others, father. They try to impress with power or knowledge. He tries to understand and connect. And does that impress you? Princess Nari looked down at the arena where Teho was preparing for the next trial. Yes, father, it does. The third day brought the physical trials, and Teho knew he was in serious trouble. Around him, competitors warmed up by lifting weights that could crush his ship. Dongwu was bench-pressing what looked like a small building. Sunho made energy. Shields appear around his body. Others showed off speed, jumping ability, and natural armor. Captain, Ra said through his earpiece, I strongly recommend you withdraw. The physical differences are too extreme. Teho watched a competitor with 6 legs run faster than Earth's fastest cars. Another one grew to twice his normal size, muscles expanding like balloons. Yeah, I'm starting to see the problem. Ambassador. Kyungmin and Delegate Haijin sat in their special viewing box, looking pleased for the first time in days. Finally, this embarrassment will end, Kyungmin said, his bird-like head bobbing with satisfaction. No amount of luck can help a human in physical trials. I have already prepared my report for the council, Haijin added. The human's earlier success was clearly an anomaly. The first physical trial was the test of strength. Competitors had to move massive stone blocks from one side of the arena to the other. The blocks were the size of houses and weighed several tons each. Dongwu stepped up first. His 4 arms grabbed a block, and with a roar that shook the arena, he lifted it over his head and carried it across. The crowd cheered. Other competitors followed. Some lifted the blocks easily, others pushed them, and a few used energy powers to make them float. All of them moved their blocks quickly and efficiently. Then it was Teho's turn. He walked up to his assigned block and put his hands on it. It did not budge. He tried pushing. Nothing. He tried lifting. His back almost broke. From the effort, the crowd started laughing again. Just give up, little human. Someone shouted. But Teho did not give up. Instead, he walked around the block, studying it carefully. Then he looked around the arena for materials the maintenance crews had left behind. What is he doing? Princess. Nari asked her father. I am not sure, King Velther replied. But he appears to be thinking. Teho found metal rods, some rope-like material, and several smaller rocks. While the crowd watched in confusion, he built something next to his block. It's a leva system, Nari realized. He's building a machine. Teiho had created a simple but effective leva using the metal rods and smaller rocks as fulcrums. He tied the rope material to the block and ran it through his leva system. Instead of trying to lift the massive weight with his muscles, he used physics. The block rose slowly into the air. Not as fast as the stronger competitors had moved theirs, but it moved. Teiho carefully operated his leva system, swinging the block across the arena and setting it down exactly where it needed to be. Trial complete. The arena master announced, sounding confused. The crowd had gone quiet again. Sun Ho stared at the lever system with his mouth open. That is actually brilliant. He used tools, Dongwu protested. Tools available to all competitors, the arena master replied. No rules were broken. Ambassador Kyungmin's feathers were ruffled with anger. This is cheating. He should use his own strength. He did use his own strength, Princess Nari called down from the royal box. The strength of his mind. The second physical trial was even more challenging, the race of winds. Competitors had to cross a deep canyon with high winds and electrical storms. Most would fly across using their natural abilities. Flying competitors took off immediately, racing through the dangerous air currents. Some were fast, others were graceful, but all of them could fly naturally. Teiho stood at the edge of the canyon, looking down into the storm-filled depths. He could not fly. He had no wings, no energy powers, no anti-gravity organs. This is it, Kyungmin said with satisfaction. No tools can help him now. But Teiho was already working. He had noticed the electrical storms followed patterns, and the wind currents created updrafts at specific points. More importantly, he had seen materials scattered around the starting area. Working quickly, he gathered lightweight metal frames, flexible fabric, and strong cables. The other competitors who had finished the race watched in amazement as Teiho built something that looked like giant wings. He's making a glider, Nari breathed. The wings were not pretty, but they were functional. Teiho studied the wind patterns one more time, then ran toward the canyon edge and jumped. For a terrifying moment, it looked like he would fall straight down. Then the updrafts caught his makeshift wings, and he soared into the air. Flying was harder than it looked. The winds tried to tear his wings apart. Lightning crackled dangerously close to his head. But Teiho had studied the patterns, and he rode the air currents like a surfer rides waves. He was not fast like the natural flyers, but he was smart. While they fought against the wind, he used it. When they flew in straight lines, he spiraled to catch better currents. When they powered through storms, he found the calm spots between lightning strikes. Teiho landed on the far side of the canyon, his homemade wings torn and smoking, but intact. He had finished the race. The arena erupted in noise. Half the crowd was cheering, the other half was arguing about whether what he did was legal. Impossible, Dongwu muttered. Humans cannot fly. You're right, Teiho said, breathing hard, as he untangled himself from his damaged wings. We can't fly, so we had to invent flying. During the evening break, Princess Nari found Teiho again. This time she came alone, without even a guard. Your wing design was ingenious, she said, sitting beside him on a crystal bench outside the arena. It was desperate, Teiho laughed. I was making it up as I went along. That's what made it work. The other competitors rely on their natural abilities. When those abilities aren't enough, they don't know what to do. But you assume you don't have the right abilities, so you create them. Is that good or bad? Nari looked thoughtful. My people have been the same for thousands of years. We are born with our abilities, we use them, we die. We never change or grow, but humans seem to change constantly. We have to. We're not strong or fast or telepathic. If we don't adapt and learn and build tools, we die. Do you ever wish you were born stronger or smarter or with natural powers? Teiho considered this. Sometimes. But then I think about how much fun it is to figure things out. If I could fly naturally, I never would have learned how wings work. If I was telepathic, I wouldn't need to learn how to really listen to people. You think limitations make you stronger? I think limitations make us creative, and creativity is its own kind of strength. Nari smiled. You have a very different way of seeing things. Is that bad? No, she said softly. It's refreshing. Most people who want to marry me talk about their strength, their power, their kingdoms. They tell me how I will benefit them. You're the first person who seems interested in what I think. What do you think about? Everything. Science, philosophy, poetry, the nature of existence. I study quantum harmonics and dimensional mathematics. But most suitors assume I'm just decorative. That's their loss. Beauty and intelligence together is the most attractive combination in the universe. Nari looked surprised. You think I'm intelligent? I think you're brilliant. The way you understood my lever system immediately, your questions about human creativity, the insight you just shared about natural abilities versus adaptation. Your mind works fast and sees connections others miss. For the first time since Teho had met her, Princess Nari looked genuinely happy. Thank you, no one has ever said that to me before. As she left to return to the royal quarters, Teho noticed they were being watched. Ambassador Kyungmin and Delegate Haijin were having an intense conversation near the arena entrance. This has gone too far, Kyungmin was saying. The human is corrupting the natural order. The princess seems interested in him, Haijin observed. That cannot be allowed. A union between a human and Veltheran royalty would be a disaster for galactic stability. What do you suggest? Contact the council. It's time to take direct action. Teho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. The trials were becoming about more than just marriage. Politics and prejudice were getting involved, but when he looked up at the royal quarters and saw a golden light in one of the windows, he thought about Princess Nari's smile when he called her brilliant. Some things were worth fighting for, even if the fight seemed impossible. Over the following days, the trials continued, but something had changed. Teho and Princess Nari began spending more time together between events. She would find excuses to walk through the gardens where he studied for the next challenges, and he would ask her questions about Veltheran culture and science. Your people use quantum harmonics in everything, Tahoe observed as they sat by a fountain that sang with crystal tones. Even your buildings are alive in a way. Nari nodded, trailing her fingers in the musical water. We learned long ago that matter and energy are just different forms of the same thing. When you understand the frequencies that connect all things, you can work with the universe instead of against it. That's beautiful. On Earth, we're just starting to understand quantum mechanics. Most of our technology still works by forcing nature to do what we want. Perhaps that's why your solutions are so creative? When you cannot force something, you must find another way. Their conversations revealed how much they had in common despite their different species. Both loved learning, both asked deep questions about existence, and both felt isolated by their unique positions. Do you ever feel lonely? Nari asked one evening as they watched the alien sunset paint the sky in colors that had no names. All the time, Teho admitted. I travel between worlds, but I never really belong anywhere. Most aliens see me as primitive, and humans back on Earth think I've become too alien myself. I understand that feeling. Everyone sees me as a prize to be won, not a person with thoughts and dreams. They want to possess my beauty or my royal status, but none of them want to know who I really am. Who are you really? Nari smiled sadly. A scientist who happens to be a princess. I study dimensional mathematics and dream of exploring other realities. But princesses are supposed to be content with marriage and ruling. Why can't you be both? A scientist princess seems like it would be even more valuable to your people. Because tradition says princesses should be beautiful and wise enough to choose good husbands, but not so independent that they threaten the order of things. That's stupid, Nari laughed, startled by his bluntness. You cannot say the traditions of my people are stupid. I just did. Any tradition that wastes intelligence is stupid, no matter which people created it. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council representatives were becoming increasingly worried. Ambassador Kyungmin and Delegate Haijin had been joined by other council members, including the intimidating Chairman Wonshik, a massive being with rocky skin and eyes like burning coals. The situation is unacceptable, Chairman One Shik rumbled during their private meeting. A human cannot be allowed to win these trials. He has performed surprisingly well, Hyjin reported, consulting her notes. His methods are unconventional but effective. More concerning is the princess's obvious interest in him, Kyung-min added. She spends hours talking with the human. This violates the natural order. Chairman One Shik's eyes blazed brighter. And the natural order must be maintained. Humans are a new species, barely evolved beyond their home planet. Allowing one to marry into galactic royalty would encourage other inferior species to forget their place. What do you recommend? Hyjin asked, Pressure King Velthar. Remind him of the consequences if he allows this mockery to continue. The Council controls trade routes, military alliances, and technological exchanges. Velthara cannot survive without our support. Back in the arena, other competitors had begun to notice the changes in how people viewed Taeho. Some, like Dongwu, had developed a grudging respect for his creative methods. Human, Dongwu said after another trial where Taeho had used ingenious problem-solving instead of brute strength. Your ways are strange, but they work. Thanks. Your strength is impressive too? We all have different gifts? Yes, but your gift is ... unusual. You see solutions where others see only problems. Sunho, the telepathic poet, was less friendly but equally puzzled. I have tried to read your thoughts during the trials, human. But your mind works in patterns I do not understand. Maybe that's good, Taeho suggested. If everyone thought the same way, we would never discover new solutions. Perhaps, Sunho admitted reluctantly. The other competitors were starting to use some of Taeho's techniques. During the trial of endurance, instead of just powering through obstacles, several aliens began looking for clever ways around them. During the trial of courage, they considered strategy alongside bravery. Princess Nari noticed this change. You're teaching them, she told Taeho during one of their evening walks. Teaching them what? To think differently. For generations, these trials have been won by whoever was strongest or fastest or most naturally gifted. But you're showing them that intelligence and creativity matter just as much? Is that bad? No, it's wonderful, but it's also dangerous. Some people prefer the old ways because the old ways keep them in power. As if to prove her point, King Velthar approached them in the garden. His expression was troubled. Nari, we need to speak privately. Taeho started to leave, but the king stopped him. Actually, Captain Taeho, this concerns you as well. They moved to a quiet alcove where they could not be overheard. The Galactic Council has contacted me, King Velthar said heavily. They are ... displeased with how the trials are proceeding. Because a human is doing well? Taeho asked. Because a human might win. Chairman One Shik has made it clear that the council considers this unacceptable. They have threatened to cut all trade agreements and military support if I allow the trials to continue as they are. Nari looked angry. They cannot interfere with our sacred traditions. They can and they are, her father replied sadly. Velthara depends on the council for many things. If they isolate us, our people will suffer. So what happens now? Taeho asked as though he already suspected the answer. The council wants you removed from the trials. They have suggested various reasons, claims that humans are not evolved enough to participate, that your methods violate the spirit of the competition, that your technology gives you unfair advantages. And what do you want, your majesty? King. Velthar looked at his daughter, then at Taeho. Honestly, I want to see how this ends. You have brought something new to our trials, Captain, something I think we needed. But I cannot ignore the welfare of my people. Father, Nari said quietly, what if Captain Taeho wins fairly? What if he proves that humans deserve respect? Then we will face the consequences together, the king replied. But the council will not make this easy. They will find ways to ensure you do not win, Captain. Be very careful. As they parted for the evening, Nari caught Taeho's hand. Whatever happens, I want you to know something. What? These have been the happiest days of my life? For the first time, someone sees me as a person worth knowing, not just a princess worth winning. Not ri ... Let me finish. Whether you win the trials or not, whether the council interferes or not, you have already given me something precious. You have shown me that I deserve to be valued for my mind and spirit, not just my beauty and status. Taeho felt something in his chest that had nothing to do with the trials or politics or even the fact that she was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. You deserve all of that and more, he said softly. Any man who wins you should consider himself the luckiest being in the galaxy. What if I don't want to be one? What if I want to choose for myself? Then you should choose. Your happiness matters more than tradition or politics or what the council thinks. Nari smiled, and in that smile, Taeho saw not just affection, but hope. You really believe that, don't you? I believe people should be free to choose their own destiny, no matter what species they are or what tradition says they should do. As they said goodnight, both of them knew that the trials had become about much more than marriage. They had become about whether two beings from different worlds could find understanding, respect, and love despite all the forces trying to keep them apart. Neither of them noticed the small recording device hidden in the garden plants, or the council spy who retrieved it after they left. The real battle was just beginning. The morning of the final trial arrived with dark clouds covering Velthera's crystal sky. Only 5 competitors remained: Taeho, Dongwoo the Krathen warrior, Sunho the Sereni poet, Minho an Altarian noble who had quietly advanced through all trials, and Yuki, a mysterious competitor whose species no one could identify. The arena was packed with beings from across the galaxy. Word had spread about the human who defied expectations, and everyone wanted to see how the story would end. The final trial is the trial of sacrifice, announced the arena master. Each competitor must demonstrate the ultimate virtue, willingness, to put the kingdom's needs above personal desires. Princess Nari sat in the royal box, but she looked worried. She had tried to speak with Taeho before the trial, but council representatives had prevented any private meetings. Chairman Won Shik stood beside King Velthera's throne, his rocky features showing satisfaction. This trial will separate the worthy from the pretenders, he rumbled loud enough for everyone to hear. The trial began with each competitor facing a different scenario designed to test their willingness to sacrifice. These were not physical challenges, but moral ones, created by advanced holographic technology that made the situations feel completely real. Dong-Woo faced a scenario where his home planet was under attack, and he could either save it or continue with the trials. Without hesitation, he chose to abandon the competition to save his people. Sunho was offered unlimited telepathic power in exchange for giving up his claim to Princess Nari. He struggled with the decision but ultimately chose love over power. Minho was shown a vision where marrying the princess would bring great prosperity to his own kingdom, but would make Velthera a vassal state. He chose Velthera's independence over his own gain. Yuki's test was kept secret, but she emerged from her scenario looking shaken and sad. Then came Taeho's turn. The holographic scenario placed him in a perfect recreation of the royal garden where he and Nari had shared so many conversations. She appeared before him, looking exactly as she did in real life. Taeho, the holographic Nari said, I need to tell you something important. What is it? I have been ordered by my father to encourage your feelings for me. The council wanted to use your emotions to manipulate your performance in the trials. My interest in you was never real. Taeho felt like he had been punched in the stomach. What? I am a princess. You are a human. We could never truly be together. The kindest thing I can do is tell you to leave now, before you embarrass yourself further. The holographic scenario was designed to make Taeho angry, heartbroken, or desperate. Most competitors would either rage against the deception or beg for another chance. Either response would show unworthiness, but Taeho looked at the holographic Nari for a long moment, then smiled sadly. If that's true, then I'm sorry you were forced to pretend. That must have been difficult for you. You're not angry? I'm hurt, but not angry. If you were ordered to manipulate me, then you're as much a victim as I am. And if your interest was never real, then I hope someday you find someone who makes you happy for real. What will you do? I'll withdraw from the trials. Not because I'm embarrassed, but because I would never want to force someone to marry me. Who doesn't want to? Your happiness is more important than my pride. The holographic scenario ended. Teho had passed the test by showing he would sacrifice his own desires for Nari's well-being. Even when he believed she had betrayed him, the judges deliberated while the competitors waited. Based on their responses, all five had shown virtue, but in different ways. The decision should have been difficult. Instead, the announcement came quickly. After careful consideration, the head judge announced, we have determined that Captain Teho of Earth has failed the trial of sacrifice. The arena erupted in shock and argument. Even competitors who disliked Teho looked confused. How did he fail? Dongwu demanded. He chose the princess's happiness over his own desires. The human's response showed weakness, not sacrifice. Chairman Wonshik declared, standing up in the royal box. True sacrifice requires strength and determination. He gave up too easily. That's ridiculous. Sun Ho protested. His response showed wisdom and compassion, but the decision was final. The judges, clearly influenced by council pressure, declared Minho the winner. The Altarian noble would marry Princess Na-Dash. Nari stood up, her face pale with shock and anger. Father, this is wrong. King Velthor looked miserable but trapped. The judges have spoken. The trials are concluded. No. Nari's voice rang across the arena. They are not. She walked to the edge of the royal box so everyone could see her clearly. By the ancient laws of Velthora, I invoke the right of challenge. I claim that the trials have been corrupted by outside interference. Chairman Wonshik's eyes blazed. Princess, you overstep your authority. I invoke my right to name a champion to defend my honor and the integrity of our sacred trials, Nari continued, ignoring him. I name Captain Teho of Earth as my champion. The arena fell silent. The right of challenge was an ancient law that even the council could not override. If Nari believed the trials had been corrupted, she could demand a champion's duel to prove it. This is preposterous, Ambassador Kyungmin squawked. You cannot name an alien as your champion. The law states any being may serve as champion if they accept willingly, King Velthor said slowly. Do you accept, Captain Teho? Teho looked up at Nari. Her golden eyes were filled with determination and hope. She was fighting for her right to choose, for the integrity of her people's traditions, and for the truth. I accept, Teho said firmly. Then tomorrow at dawn there will be a champion's duel, the king announced. Captain Teho will face the council's chosen representative in combat that will test mind, body, and spirit. The winner will determine whether the trials were fair or corrupted. Chairman Wonshik smiled coldly. Very well. The council chooses Kresh, the Destroyer. A murmur of fear ran through the crowd. Kresh was legendary, a bioengineered warrior created specifically for the council's most difficult problems. He had never lost a battle and had defeated entire armies single-handedly. As the arena cleared, Teho remained standing in the center. Looking up at the royal box, Nari was still there, watching him with a mixture of gratitude and worry. He said quietly. What are the odds? Captain, Kresh is 12 feet tall, weighs 800 pounds, has armor-plated skin, regenerative abilities and weapons built into his body. Your chances of survival are approximately 0.03%. Better than I expected. How is that better than you expected? Teho smiled grimly. Because yesterday no one thought I had any chance at all. We're improving. But as he walked back to his ship to prepare for what might be his final battle, Teho wondered if human creativity and determination would be enough against an opponent designed to be the perfect killing machine. Tomorrow would answer that question. One way or another. Dawn came too quickly. The crystal arena had been transformed overnight into a proper dueling ground with multiple levels, obstacles, and challenges. This would not be a simple fight, but a complete test of worthiness. Teho stood at one end of the arena, checking his equipment one last time. He had his standard gear, plus some items Biora had helped him modify during the night. Against Kresh the Destroyer, conventional weapons would be useless. At the other end of the arena stood his opponent. Kresh was everything the stories claimed and worse. 12 feet of living nightmare, with gray armor-plated skin, claws that could cut through steel, and eyes that glowed red with hatred. Built-in weapons covered his arms and back. He moved with the fluid grace of a perfect predator. The stands were packed beyond capacity. Beings from hundreds of worlds had come to witness this unprecedented duel. Princess Nari sat in the royal box, her face pale but determined. King Velthor looked like he had not slept all night. Chairman One-Shik stood to address the crowd. This duel will prove once and for all whether humans deserve respect or should know their place. Kresh has never been defeated. He will demonstrate the natural order. The duel consists of 3 phases, the arena master announced. First, the trial of mind, solve the puzzle while under attack. Second, the trial of body, physical combat with obstacles. Third, the trial of spirit, prove your worthiness through action, not words. Are both contestants ready? The arena master asked. Kresh roared, a sound that made the crystal arena vibrate. Weapons extended from his arms like deadly flowers blooming. Teho simply nodded. Begin. The first phase started immediately. A complex holographic puzzle appeared in the center of the arena, a 3-dimensional maze of light that needed to be navigated while under attack. Previous champions had solved it while their opponents tried to distract them. Kresh had a different approach. He charged directly at Teho, intending to crush him before the puzzle even mattered. But Teho was already moving. He had studied Kresh's previous battles and noticed something important. The bioengineered warrior was incredibly strong and fast, but he fought with programmed responses. He was a perfect machine, which meant he was predictable instead of running away from Kresh. Teho ran toward the puzzle. As Kresh's claws slashed through the air where Teho had been, the human was already analyzing the holographic maze. Interesting strategy, Sunho commented from the stands. He's using Kresh's own attack to buy time. The puzzle was incredibly complex, but Teho recognized the pattern. It was similar to the maze from the first trial, but 3-dimensional and constantly changing. While dodging Kresh's attacks, he traced the mathematical sequences that controlled the shifts. Kresh grew frustrated as his attacks kept missing. His programming told him to overwhelm opponents with force, but Teho was not where force could reach him. 3rd level, 9th junction, 27th pathway, Teho muttered. Making calculations while jumping over Kresh's sweeping claws, the puzzle suddenly clicked into place, its lights turning from red to blue. Phase 1 was complete. The crowd roared with surprise. No one had ever solved the maze that quickly, especially while under attack. Phase 2 began immediately. Physical obstacles rose from the arena floor, spinning blades, crushing walls, pits of fire, and moving platforms. Competitors had to navigate these while fighting each other. Kresh smiled for the first time, showing teeth like broken glass. This was his domain. He charged through the obstacles, his armor-plated skin deflecting the spinning blades, his massive strength pushing through the crushing walls. Nothing in the course could hurt him, but Teho was not trying to power through the obstacles. He was using them. When Kresh charged at him near the spinning blades, Teho ducked and rolled. Kresh's momentum carried him into the blades, which finally found something they could not cut through, but the impact sent him spinning. When Kresh cornered him near the crushing walls, Teho triggered the mechanism and dove aside. Kresh was strong enough to stop the walls, but the effort left him temporarily immobilized. He's fighting the arena as much as his opponent, Dongwu observed with admiration. The human makes everything his weapon. Princess Nari was gripping the edge of her seat. He cannot keep this up forever. Kresh is not getting tired. She was right. Kresh was a bioengineered perfect warrior who did not feel fatigue. Meanwhile, Teho was breathing hard and bleeding from several near misses, but then Phase 3 began, and everything changed. Final phase, the arena master announced. Prove your worthiness not through victory, but through the spirit you show in facing defeat. This was the real test. Phase 3 was not about winning or losing. It was about showing who you truly were when everything was on the line. Kresh paused, confused. His programming had not prepared him for a trial that was not about victory. Teho straightened up and looked directly at his opponent. Kresh, do you know why you're fighting me? To prove human inferiority, Kresh replied in a voice like grinding metal. And do you want to prove that, or were you just programmed to want it? For the first time in the duel, Kresh hesitated. I am Kresh the Destroyer? I destroy the Council's enemies? But am I really your enemy, or am I just someone different from you? The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Look around, Taeho continued, gesturing to the stands. Do you see enemies here, or do you see beings from hundreds of worlds, all different, all unique, all valuable? Kresh's red eyes flickered with something that might have been confusion. Taeho took a step closer. The Council created you to be perfect at destroying things. But what if there was more to life than destroying? What if you could choose to create instead? I am a weapon, Kresh said, but his voice sounded uncertain for the first time. You are a being with thoughts and choices. Being created as a weapon does not mean you have to remain one. In the royal box, Chairman One-Shik stood up angrily. Kresh, complete your mission. Destroy the human. But something extraordinary was happening. Kresh was looking around the arena as if seeing it for the first time. His red eyes were focused on the thousands of different beings in the stands, not as targets but as individuals. Kresh began, then stopped. Taeho held out his hand. You don't have to fight anymore, Kresh. You can choose your own purpose. The bioengineered warrior stared at the offered hand. In his entire existence, no one had ever offered him friendship instead of demanding destruction. Slowly, carefully, Kresh reached out and took Taeho's hand. The arena erupted in chaos. Half the crowd was cheering, the other half was shouting. In confusion, Chairman One-Shik was screaming orders that Kresh completely ignored. The arena master looked stunned. In all the history of champions duels, this has never happened before. King Velthor stood up slowly. The trial asked both contestants to prove their worthiness through the spirit they showed. Captain Taeho showed compassion and wisdom. Kresh showed the courage to choose a new path. Both have proven themselves worthy. This is unacceptable. Chairman One-Shik roared. The human must be destroyed. No, Princess Nari said, standing up. Her voice carried clearly across the arena. What is unacceptable is the Council's attempt to corrupt our sacred traditions with prejudice and fear. She looked directly at her father. The trials have revealed something important. We have been judging worthiness by power and conformity. But Captain Taeho has shown us that true worthiness comes from understanding, creativity, and the courage to see beyond our own limitations. King Velthor nodded slowly. The champions' duel has proven that the trials were indeed corrupted by outside interference. I declare them null and void. And I, Princess Nari continued, exercise my right as an adult royal to choose my own. Husband, the arena fell silent. I choose Captain Taeho of Earth not because he won a contest, but because he has shown me what it means to be valued for who I am, not what I represent. Taeho looked up at her in amazement. Nari, are you sure? The political consequences will be what they will be, she replied. Some things are more important than politics. Chairman One-Shik was furious, but he was also trapped. The ancient laws of champions' duels could not be overturned even by the Council. The Council will not forget this insult, he warned. Good, King Velthor replied. Perhaps it will remind you that respect must be earned, not demanded. As the crowd dispersed, arguing and celebrating in equal measure, Taeho found himself surrounded by the other competitors. Human, Dongwu said, you have taught us something valuable. Strength comes in many forms. Your victory gives hope to all species the Council considers lesser. Sun Ho added. Even Minho, who had briefly been declared winner of the trials, approached. I am glad to lose to such a worthy opponent. You will make a better prince than I would have. As the crystal sun set over Velthora, Taeho and Nari stood together in the royal garden where they had first really talked. So what happens now? Taeho asked. Now we build something new, Nari replied. A partnership between our peoples based on respect and understanding instead of hierarchy and prejudice. And us? Nari smiled. We prove that love can bridge any gap, even the space between stars. Above them, ships from dozens of worlds were already departing to spread the news. The human who had been mocked and underestimated had not only won the trials, but had changed how an entire galaxy,